Alright, we're at the end of January, so let's just revisit this month's top stories. I'm gonna be checking out your comments from the stories, and at the end of the video, we're just gonna yap a little bit about YouTube. This year didn't necessarily start too well for a lot of companies, and that involves startups as well. A few startups did layoffs, like Flexport, who laid off 20% of the company, Brex, another 20%, First Mode, Sondermine, Vendor, and Humane. We've covered Humane a lot in the past, so it was a bit of a shock considering that they've just announced their first product in October. The layoffs from Humane kind of popped up in my radar from The Verge, where the headline was Humane lays off 4% of employees before releasing its AI pin. And then this tweet from the deputy editor at The Verge, where he says Humane laid off 4% of their employees this week in what was described to them as a cost-cutting measure. So from this headline, the CEO of Humane took to Twitter to respond, where she says that we are no longer a 0 to 1 company. And she talks about how they've reorganized a lot of the companies, a lot of people got promoted, and they're also hiring a lot. And she says, these form part of a wider refresh of our organizational structure as our company evolves with purpose for this next phase of our growth. These evolutions of growth can sadly also mean making difficult decisions for some. In this case, we want to extend our gratitude to 10 members of a team who we've parted ways with at Humane. She also goes down later to respond to someone who says, if you're hiring for new roles, why cut 10 members as a cost-saving move? Where she says, yeah, that's the thing. It's not a cost-cutting measure given the number and we are hiring in other areas. She's also disappointed with how the news cycle is picking up on the stories around Humane, which I thought was really interesting because it seems like it's rather unfortunate that the public reception as well as the news kind of takes Humane with like a little bit of a negative attitude, considering that their keynotes have always been a little bit mysterious, as I've covered in my video. But also their price point, the fact that they didn't even give any person outside of their team the device to review. So there seems like there's like a lot of bad luck around Humane and their relationship with the press and their relationship with customers and their relationship with the public. But I don't really know whether bad luck exists in business or in this world. I really hope that their sales numbers kind of reflect all the years that they've put into building this device. But I want to know what you think. But speaking of sales numbers, Rabbit, a direct competitor of Humane, kind of direct, they've sold 50,000 units since their keynote at the beginning of the month, which is really impressive. I'm filming this video on January 27th, so maybe by the end it might be 60,000. I want to check out some comments from this video. Nitu1996 says, R1 comes off as a cheap plastic toy rather than the visionary product that Humane is trying to produce. Beautiful design, ditch the screen, etc. Whether you want to opt for the more refined product and pay $6.99, or you just want something that actually has like more use and is closer to the form factor that you're used to and is actually affordable, it depends on you. So if you like a more refined product like the Humane AI pin, you might opt for that. And I'm thinking that's more of a San Francisco or New York type demographic. But if you're just a regular pleb like me, I think the R1 seems more attractive, in my opinion. Delta X Music says, every tech startup copying Apple's demo/release video style is mildly infuriating. The hand movements, the weird camera angles, the switch between people who clearly have never been on camera before, it's newbie hour. And yeah, I mean, I think that with Humane and the Rabbit R1, there was so much premise that needed to be explained just because it's a new paradigm in terms of the products and what they do and what they're supposed to fill and who it's for, that there was like a huge need to really kind of dive into your Steve Jobs mode, put on the turtleneck, step in front of the camera, and really explain to the public what these mean. So I do get the frustration, but at the same time, some things just work. The other day I saw a video about someone complaining about this landing page on Twitter, and they were just like doing some like weird like reaction to watching this landing page that was built with like Tailwind CSS or something.
What the fuck is this website even about?
And it was a bit frustrating to watch that video just because that person seemed to be annoyed that every landing page looks the same, but at the same time, that landing page, first of all, takes time to build, but also it's the simplest way to convey what it does. People are kind of used to this format as well. The same applies to keynotes and how these are being delivered and the message and how efficiently you're trying to say what your product does. And if it has to be the Steve Jobs way, it might be the best way. And other people were talking about the form factor. Richard Alvarado, 1877, says, if only R1 came in the form of a smartwatch. I think at the end of the day, the market is going to decide whether the Rabbit form factor is the most efficient way for it to exist or whether it belongs on your iPhone. We'll see. Someone says they're both not going anywhere since they can easily be implemented as an app without sacrificing the benefits you get from a phone. 50,000 devices being sold over the course of a month is pretty impressive for a small Tamagotchi-like device. So maybe you're right, but it seems like people kind of like how it looks right now. They're indirect competitor of the phone companies themselves, including Google and Apple. There's nothing stopping them from implementing their own take on both products, all integrated into their current product lines. And Apple is known for just coming in and seeing what works and just building it into the iPhone. So definitely not an invalid opinion, but at the same time, there are certain times where companies manage to build cult-like followings. If Rabbit or Humane were to be able to accumulate some cult-like following and get people behind their product, there's nothing stopping them from just selling products over and over again until maybe they match up to Apple's size down the line. I don't know, I'm just yapping at this point. Speaking of yapping, me and my friend Prince had a very interesting conversation around the Vision Pro while we were checking out the apps, and the comments were kind of rough, not gonna lie. Some people, like Urban VR, were calling Prince a hater. You can't be a techie and not be excited about this product, you just can't. I've known Prince since college. We've been friends since my freshman year in college, and the dude is very much into the nitty-gritty of tech. Yes, he can be a hater, and he can really hate on technology, but that's because he's really getting his hands dirty into building products himself. So a lot of times he kind of goes past the niceness of how something looks. He's really trying to understand what's the core value that the product's trying to offer. But some people did agree with Prince. Next Gen Art 99 says, perhaps if the headset was as compact as prescription glasses, it could be worn all day, and some of the gimmicky apps could have practical applications. And yeah, I think that's the long-term goal of the Vision Pro team at Apple, if I had to guess. Just try to put as many of these apps as possible while trying to evolve their product. There's already been rumors that Apple is already working on a non-pro headset down the line. So a lot of these might make sense in the future. Someone else said, but Prince guy was just a hater of the technology. I do my dishes in mixed reality with a Quest 3 and didn't have any issues. Mixed reality is the future. For sure, yeah, mixed reality is the future. And, you know, Prince tried it and maybe it didn't work for him and it works for you. But, you know, he did try it. So it's not really a hater. He actually tried it. Actually, the Crouton app that me and Prince had checked in that video actually got reviewed in a CNBC or MSNBC review. And it looks great. You can hover a timer above your dishes and stuff. But the real truth will be to see how many people actually use the Vision Pro in the kitchen and if it actually works well. If you've seen the Verge video, there's like a lot of commentary about how even though the display looks really well and looks really high resolution, it's still a screen that's trying to project reality and it doesn't match your eyes. So I thought that was really interesting and it kind of matches with what Prince was saying the other day. So let me know what you think, Stovo. Todd Clary 8821 says, the first reason to give a Vision Pro a thumbs down is because you can't afford it. Lol, okay. The $4,000 price point is really high and honestly is a turnoff for most people. Obviously, the VR community is very enthusiastic about any development that's being done in the space. So there's going to be the plebs like me, and there's going to be the people that are enthusiastic enough about the product that are going to be buying it and paying $4,000 for it. So that was the premise that we said at the beginning of the video. We are not going to get a $4,000 headset because we don't think it's going to bring us value at this price point, based on what it currently does and based on what people are talking about with the heaviness, with only watching entertainment and maybe working here and there, 2-hour battery life. But you might be enticed and you might have the money for it. So go ahead, man. Kurt Seifert says, these apps look like quickest, simplest ideas to implement in the Apple Vision Pro. They just put that out there for a money grab. These are not real use cases or serious apps. I think of that opinion as differently. I disagreed with Prince at the end of the Vision Pro video, just because I think that a lot of these apps are going to be multitasking apps. Basically, you're watching the game, but you also want to make a coffee, so you're just going to put a coffee timer there. I think that's a totally valid use case if people want to be multitasking while using the headset. The DJK Gmail says, suppose we are to believe that he's an AR VR developer and tech authority / influencer we should be paying attention to. Shouldn't he be excited about furthering the technology in his industry? He's coming off as an Apple hater in this video. He has worked in AR VR. We actually worked together on a product called MetaLink VR. Basically, he was trying to make an app where people would be able to manage the events happening in VR easier. He actually used some open source code from Mozilla, I think, to build his own world and his own event platform. And he hosted parties there as well, and I joined one. He actually has had some experience, and he has been excited for the longest about AR VR. But he is also a realist. Like he has said, he bought all the Quest devices. He just does not seem to find enough time or enough desire to use them. All right, enough defending Prince, enough of his comments. Let's move on to the next topic, which is Figma and Adobe. So Figma and Adobe's acquisition didn't go through, and they had to basically part ways. Figma kind of got a nice bag out of it, and Adobe now is left without XD and without Figma. So they have a little hole in their whole product offering right now. So I wanted to check how Figma has been taking it, and seems like Figma is just deploying as per usual. They have been deploying AI within FigJam. And in this article, they're just talking about how Ryan Singer, who was the CEO of Diagram, the company that Figma acquired, is now working on implementing AI across different parts of Figma, which is really interesting. And they also announced at the end of January that they're also pushing out more features on their dev mode. It's really interesting to see how they've just been deploying and they've just been business as usual, even though this calamity of a news happened literally a month ago. Adobe, on the other hand, I think has been having some issues with getting back on their 2 feet. I checked out their page on their support, and I mean, that's when you search Adobe XD on Google. So you search for Adobe XD, and I guess you can, oh, there you go. The first result that isn't sponsored is from Adobe Learn and Support. And it says XD is in maintenance mode, and that has been since June of 2023. They still have not updated it, and Adobe, being a bigger company, might take some more time to figure out how to get this back and running. Good luck, Adobe. Cool that Figma is just like rapidly moving on its feet. Checking out some comments from the Figma video, Goga 1000 says they should try to acquire Ligma instead. Lazy Alpaca 7 says, has anyone tried Penpot? And apparently I wasn't too aware of a Penpot. So, and it seems to be the poor man's Figma. Some people on Reddit like it. Others seem to say that it's a little bit of a rough product and you have to work a little harder to get the same output compared to working with a product like Figma that has money and support. So yeah, thank you to Lazy Alpaca 7 for that comment. So that kind of got me digging a little. And then from the Kitsch video, there hasn't been that many updates from Kitsch. I haven't been seeing any more updates from the lawsuit either. So let's check out some comments from the video. So Sujit Warrior 4857 says that I should connect with Louis Rossmann. I would love to do that. I would love to connect with other people from YouTube. I would like to actually be part of a space, you know, exist within the realm. I'm really appreciative of every single person that has clicked on subscribe or that has watched any of my videos. But 15, 16 in the YouTube world is like super tiny. This is like a really tiny audience. I still feel a little bit intimidated to reach out to other YouTubers. I haven't even thought about it. Right now, I only think about founders and other people in the startup realm to talk to. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to get to talk to other people that are masters in their space, like Louis Rossman. So thank you for that comment. Definitely opened my mind to the possibility of reaching out to other people in YouTube. All right, now that we've covered all the other stories, I'm gonna start yapping away at YouTube, at what I'm doing with the channel, at the goals that I have for this channel for this year. I started in April of 2023 last year. So I had 0 subscribers, and then we managed to amass 1,500 subscribers. We're really grateful for each and every one of you. Some of the big videos that kind of blew up the channel were the interview with Aditya. His Y Combinator company shut down. I asked him 9 questions. That video basically brought my channel from like less than 100 subscribers to 1,000 in the span of like a month or something. That was pretty crazy. Oh, I think this video also kind of did really well. 11 Y Combinator startups that shut down and why. These videos, I see comments still popping up where people are like, you should do stories about other startups that are failing and stuff, to which I kind of don't like to attract this negativity with startups, because 80% of startups are bound to fail. So if I keep covering these stories, but without being able to talk to most of the founders, it's just a little bit just like doubling down on like the negative aspect of building. I was able to talk to Aditya, but when I was doing that series and that video, a few founders reached out to me via message, but it was really hard to get a sit-down interview with most people. So I'm really grateful for Aditya to take the time to sit down with me for that video. Last year, I started to post a lot of videos. I started my first video by just being faceless, where I was reviewing whatnot. Like, I was faceless, I was just standing there and framing the camera in like a funny way. But since then, I've started to make small tweaks, experimenting to see what works, what people want to see in the startup realm, just because it's a realm that I'm really interested in. I love business stories. MKBHD, for example, who's a huge inspiration of mine, he makes certain videos that are really focused on a specific company's business tactic, what they're doing, like how he makes the Apple wall garden video. These are like my favorite videos of him. So my channel was basically trying to really focus on these types of videos, looking at specific stories from startups. Along the way, I've been experimenting with different types of stories, but I'm sort of getting a groove now of the types of stories that I want to cover. This year, my resolution was to make 1 video per week. And so far, I've been like pretty consistent with it. It's only January, but I'm supposed to be making at least 54 videos this year. I realized that a lot of the topics that I cover are more stories that are relevant in the news cycle, or stories that are relevant that people care about the products. So for example, the Rabbit R1 video did really well, but this story about this developer from the Hey Calendar app, people didn't really care that much, and the views kind of reflected, the engagement kind of reflects it. I've just been trying to figure out what stories people care about. It seems that a lot of people care about stories about hardware compared to stories about software. So for example, there was a huge story about Kata, who has basically been going around startups' backs to sell their stocks and stuff. Really interesting story on startups, but because there's no hardware in the center of it, it's been kind of hard to cover that story. This whole journey right now has just been like trying to figure out what the audience wants to see and trying to make the best video every week. Yeah, going back to last year, I've just been focusing on the editing aspect of it. There's this video, What's Left to Build in the Podcasting Space, that I spent a whole month editing, filming, writing and stuff, and it has a total of 211 views. That was soul crushing. Later, I kind of realized that simpler stories like the Loom exit, for example, which was like a new story, made me realize that people kind of like to learn about more relevant news or more relevant stories from startups, which kind of made me start covering more news-related stories. The AI pin video was not really news related, but it was just something that I thought of, and it was just a little think piece that I did. But yeah, it's been a really nice learning curve with doing YouTube videos. By the end of this year, I will be making 54 videos, hopefully, and I should probably be learning 54 new lessons that I'll be implementing every week. Like, for example, this video, the end of a monthly recap, is just another one of these experiments where I'm just pushing it out there and I'm gonna see the reaction to it, and if people enjoy it. I enjoy yapping, like that's why I make these videos. I just yap, and I just like to yap to the camera about these things that I care about. So we'll see how it goes. If you're still here right now, let me know what other videos you'll like to see. Please don't ask me to interview founders whose startups have failed and stuff. If some founders want to talk to me, I will gladly sit down with them. But yeah, let me know other things that you've seen from the channel. Maybe you've clicked subscribe at some point because you thought about something. Let me know why you clicked subscribe to begin with. Enough yapping for today. I think this video is already too long. I'll see you next week, hopefully with a more positive, uplifting story. And yeah, bye.